Hello, I'm Surya. Welcome to this session. In the previous video, we explored what a line graph is, the key steps to writing an effective description, and the vocabulary needed to describe it. In this video, you will learn how to describe a line graph step by step. We will break down the process into clear, simple steps so you can easily analyze and present the key trends and details of any line graph. Now let's break down the structure of an IELTS Task 1 line graph description. A well-organized response consists of three parts: introduction, overview, and body paragraphs. Here is how to approach each section. In introduction, start by paraphrasing the question statement. This means rewriting the question in your own words to show your understanding. Keep this section brief and to the point. Your goal is to introduce the graph, not to analyze it. The next section is overview. In this section, identify the main trends or key features of the graph. Write a clear and concise summary of the most significant changes, such as overall increases, decreases, or fluctuations. Avoid including specific data or details here. This is just a general outline or broad summary. The final section is body paragraphs. Here, provide detailed descriptions of the trends. Use specific data such as numbers, percentages, and time periods to support your points. Group the information logically, for example, by trend, time period, or category. Use appropriate vocabulary to describe changes. By following this structure, you'll be able to write a clear, well-organized response that meets IELTS Task 1 requirements. In the next slides, we will explore each of these steps in detail. When writing your description, remember to use a formal and objective tone, avoiding personal opinions. Focus only on the essential information and omit minor details. Your response should be no less than 150 words, and you should aim to finish the task within 20 minutes. Practicing with a timer will help you manage your time effectively. Let's take a closer look at the question and understand its components. Here is the question statement. The line graph below shows the sales of 4 electronic products in a country between January and June in 2023. This statement tells us what the graph is about. In this case, the graph shows the sales trends of 4 electronic products over a 6-month period in 2023. Next, let's look at the instructions. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Write at least 150 words. These instructions tell us what we need to do. We must summarize the main features of the graph, make comparisons between the products where relevant, write at least 150 words. Now let's explore the title of the graph. The title is Sales of 4 Electronic Products. The title gives us a clear idea of what the graph is measuring. Sales of 4 specific electronic products over time. Now let's examine the axes as they provide essential details for interpreting the graph. The x-axis represents the time period, showing the months from January to June 2023. Understanding the time period is important because it allows us to track changes, trends, and fluctuations over a defined duration. In other graphs, the time period might vary. It could be years, days, hours, or even specific intervals depending on the type of data being presented. The y-axis represents the sales figures in units, where each unit refers to a single piece of a product sold. It's important to specify this because the term units can have different meanings in other graphs. It might refer to currency, weight, or percentages, depending on the data being presented. In this graph, however, units clearly indicate the number of individual products sold. Finally, let's look at the legend. The legend tells us what each line on the graph represents. In this case, the 4 products are smartwatches, laptops, smartphones, and headphones. Each product is represented by a distinct line on the graph, and the legend helps us identify which line corresponds to which product. This makes it easier to analyze individual trends and comparisons. These are the components of the question, and understanding these is the first step to writing a strong response. In the next slides, we'll break down how to analyze and describe this graph step by step. Let's start with the introduction. Here, you need to paraphrase the question. This is the statement you need to paraphrase. The line graph below shows the sales of 4 electronic products in a country between January and June in 2023. You can paraphrase it in multiple ways. Let's look at the first paraphrased example. The multi-line graph illustrates the sales of 4 electronic products: smartwatches, laptops, smartphones, and headphones over a 6-month period in 2023. Notice the changes made here. Line graph is replaced with multi-line graph. Shows is replaced with illustrates. The names of the 4 products are added for clarity. Between January and June is replaced with over a 6-month period. You can also see that the word below in the question is omitted because there is no graph positioned below the response. So, including the word below doesn't make sense. The highlighted words in different colors show the changes. These changes not only paraphrase the statement, but also increase the word count slightly. Notice that you don't need to change every single word. You only need to make enough changes to present the information differently while keeping the same meaning. Now let's look at 2 more paraphrased examples. Pause the video here and take a moment to identify the changes made in these examples. The highlighted words in different colors show the changes. For example, the word line graph in the question is highlighted in yellow, and any alternatives to line graph, such as multi-line graph, given diagram, or graph, are also in yellow. Similarly, green color is used to highlight the word shows in the question. It is replaced with alternatives like illustrates, compares, and provides data, all of which are colored green. These examples show that there are multiple ways to paraphrase effectively. The key is to make enough changes to present the information differently while keeping the original meaning intact. Next, we will look at how to write the overview for the graph. When writing an overview, it's good to start with the word overall, as this signals that you are summarizing the main trends. In this section, you should mention the general trends you notice at a glance without going into specific details or figures. Let's look at the main trends in the graph to write the overview. Sales of smartwatches increased significantly from the beginning to the end of the period. Sales of laptops dropped considerably throughout the 6-month period. Sales of smartphones experienced fluctuations with sharp rises and falls but showed an upward trend towards the end. Sales of headphones remained relatively stable with only minor changes over time. So based on this observation, overview can be written this way. Pause the video here and read the overview written here. When writing the overview, focus on the overall picture. Look at the graph from the beginning to the end of the given period rather than focusing on specific time references. Start the overview with overall. Highlight the main trends such as increases, decreases, fluctuations, or stability. Avoid including details such as exact sales numbers or specific time points. We will focus on the body paragraphs now. The body paragraphs are where you write the details of your description. However, it's important to remember that you don't need to include every single detail from the graph. Instead, focus on the important trends and key points that best summarize the data. Try to group information logically rather than describing each month separately. In this graph, the trends are completely different. So we can group smartwatches and laptops in paragraph 1, as they represent increasing and decreasing trends respectively. In paragraph 2, we can group products that show fluctuations and stability, namely smartphones and headphones. Paragraphing differs based on the graph type, but the goal is to organize ideas clearly. Mention the initial and final points with approximate values and time references. When mentioning figures, use words like around or approximately if you are not sure of the exact values. Use a variety of vocabulary to achieve a high score. Let's learn how to write body paragraphs step by step. We will start by understanding the logic behind each sentence and then combine them into a complete paragraph. When writing the first body paragraph, we should begin by introducing the starting points. This helps set the context before describing trends. We can start by stating the initial sales figures for the products. For example, to begin with, in January, smartwatches had the lowest sales at 20 units, whereas laptops recorded the highest figure at 120 units. At the same time, smartphones and headphones started at 40 units each. This introduction provides a contrast between the products. It also uses comparative language such as lowest and highest to highlight key differences. Next, we can describe how sales changed over time by using specific vocabulary for trends. For example, from January to June, there was a substantial increase in smartwatch sales, climbing from 20 units to 100 units. This sentence clearly shows growth by using the phrase a substantial increase and includes the final value to indicate the result. Now, let's describe laptop sales. In contrast, there was a sharp decline in laptop sales, falling from 120 units in January to 50 units by June. After describing trends, we can also mention significant comparisons. For instance, notably, smartwatch sales equaled laptop sales in April and then surpassed them in the subsequent months. This highlights a key event in the data and shows how the rankings changed over time. These are the main points that should be included in the first body paragraph. By following this approach, we ensure that our writing is clear, structured, and effectively presents the most important trends. Now let's take a look at the complete first body paragraph. Pause the video here and read all the sentences together to understand how the first body paragraph is structured and written. Let's apply the same approach to the second body paragraph now. We have already mentioned in the overview that smartphone sales fluctuated. So now we can provide more details about smartphones. For example, on the other hand, smartphone sales displayed considerable variations, ranging between 20 and 110 units. Then we can describe specific changes like this. The sales of smartphones rose quickly to 80 units in February, dipped slightly to 50 in March, then surged to 100 in April. In May, smartphone sales reached the lowest point of 20 units. However, they recovered rapidly to 110 units by June. We can also mention a very important point, which is, despite these fluctuations, the overall trend for smartphones was upward. Now we can describe the sales of the fourth product, headphones. In comparison, headphone sales showed little change, fluctuating slightly between 42 and 45 units during the given period. This provides a clear contrast to the fluctuations seen in smartphone sales. These are the main points that should be included in the second body paragraph. Let's see the complete second paragraph now. Pause the video here and read all the sentences together to understand how the second body paragraph is structured and written. This is the end of the model description. Now, let's look at the final report. This is the four-part report structure. You can see introduction, overview, body paragraph 1, and body paragraph 2. This structure ensures that your response is well organized, clear, and covers all key details. In the next video, we will analyze the sentence structures used in this model description. This will help you understand how to construct sentences for any graph using a variety of vocabulary and grammatical structures. Let's look at the compare-contrast language and connectors used in the model description. In this slide, compare-contrast language is highlighted in yellow, and other connectors or linking phrases are highlighted in green. The words highlighted in yellow indicate differences, contrasts, and extreme values between the sales trends of the four products. For example, while contrasts the increase in smartwatch sales with the drop in laptop sales, and whereas compares the starting sales of smartwatches and laptops in January. Adjectives such as lowest and highest were used to compare values within the dataset. For example, in the sentence, smartwatches had the lowest sales at 20 units, whereas laptops recorded the highest figure at 120 units. These words indicate extremes in comparison. Other connectors like overall, to begin with, at the same time, meanwhile, and notably, help organize the description and link ideas smoothly. For instance, meanwhile introduces a parallel trend about smartphones and headphones, while notably emphasizes a key point about smartwatches surpassing laptop sales. These connectors make the description cohesive and easy to follow. Using such language in IELTS Task 1 helps you clearly compare trends and structure your response effectively. Now that we have analyzed the model description and the language used, let's discuss the structure of an IELTS Task 1 essay. First, let's look at the introduction and overview. The report we have discussed is in 4 paragraphs. However, the introduction and overview can be combined into a single paragraph, making the report a 3-paragraph report. This is completely acceptable in IELTS exams. Next, let's talk about the body paragraphs. The number of body paragraphs also can vary. You might write 1 or 2 body paragraphs depending on the amount of information presented in the graph. For example, if there are multiple trends or categories to describe, you can split them into 2 paragraphs for clarity. If the data is simple, such as a basic double-line graph, you might only need 1 body paragraph instead of 2. In that case, your report would have just 2 paragraphs, 1 for the introduction plus overview and 1 for the details. Finally, an important point: no conclusion needed. Unlike Task 2 essays, IELTS Task 1 essays do not require a conclusion. This is because the overview already summarizes the key trends, and writing a separate conclusion is not necessary. Thank you for watching. Keep practicing what you have learned, and best of luck with your studies. See you in the next video.